Solaris united, you shall not be spared the rod, as those who came before you were not spared.
Orb Vallis is Nathaniel's domain, an ambitious terraforming project used as a proof of concept that he can harness Orchid technology to his investors, and it is built upon the blood and toil of the Solaris people. The Solaris United fight on behalf of them to ensure their rights are maintained, yet Nathaniel will not be so easily denied his profit. Orb Vallis is an investment, and he oversees the protection of said investment through the oppressive power of the Mother Orbs, whose intimidating presence dominates the landscape of the Orb Vallis. Hey guys, it's Smotown here, and this week we are talking about the lore of the Mother Orbs, the pinnacle of Arachnoid technology. The Orbs truly do represent the top of the food chain when it comes to the Arachnoid line of tech that is produced by the Corpus, as the Corpus do in fact have an entire line of Arachnoids, from very small to medium sized to the Orbs, and these patrol Corpus ships as well as the Orb Vallis, acting as a more advanced Corpus proxy. Towering above the smaller ones are the Mother Orbs, a name given by virtue of their immense size in comparison to children Arachnoids. We are aware of 3 such orbs: the Profit Taker Orb, which holds its position over the Enrichment Labs, guarding everything inside with greedy eyes; the Exploiter Orb, which patrols the Temple of Profit and has a history with Solaris United; and finally there is a yet unnamed orb which sits in the lake next to the Oregon dig site. These massive autonomous gun platforms are piloted by hybrid AI. They have ship hull armour as their carapace, and they integrate sentient technology, which in the case of the Profit Taker takes the form of powerful adaptive shielding. It is this unique combination of dangerous and experimental technology that makes the orbs such a danger to Solaris United, as they are nearly invincible, extremely dangerous, and highly intelligent. Luckily for the SU, the Quills have also got an interest in taking down the Orbs, and this is no doubt as a result of the Orbs integrating sentient technology, and the Quills having an interest in culling sentient remnants and collecting said sentient technology. The Orbs do seem to be the pinnacle of the Enrichment Labs' work on sentience, as when you are in the Enrichment Labs themselves you can see sentience being dissected and much experimentation going on sentient remains. As a result, the SU can rely on Quill informants, as well as support and gear supplied through Little Duck, a former protege of Biz, who now has some kind of relationship with the Quills and acts as the front for the Quills organisation in Fortuna. On Earth, however, the Quills are interested in the remains of the sentients in the form of sentient cores. So what are they interested here in Fortuna? Well, toroids are items that are dropped by Arachnoids of all sizes, including Mother Orbs, and are the items that are used by Vox Solaris to improve your standing with them, and therefore one could assume it is what the Quills are after, given that Vox Solaris is a front in Fortuna for the Quills. This could lead us to assume, given the relationship that the Quills have with collecting sentient cores, that these toroid items are part of the sentient technology that is integrated into the Orbs, and it would explain why the Quills and Vox Solaris are interested in getting these items. These items are actually named as Arachnoid power cells in concept art, the source of which I will link below, meaning we could also assume that this sentient piece of tech is used to power the Arachnoids, possibly powering their shields and weaponry. The AI of the Orbs are also referred to by Biz as hybrid, meaning that it is part of something and part of another, and so it's possible that these toroids form one half of the hybrid, the sentient half, playing a role in the AI's autonomy but also combined with Corpus tech to harness that potential, making it a leashed sentient of sorts. However, this is really moving into deep speculation territory, so make up your own minds about the nature of the toroids, but it's clear to say that they are part of the sentient integration into the Orbs. The autonomous nature of the pilot AI allows the Orbs to essentially function independently and adapt to different situations, making their own judgment calls without being interrupted by any Corpus commands. It also has the added benefit that the system cannot be easily hijacked by Solaris United, which I imagine was one of the driving motivations behind granting these platforms AI, as they are not simply programs or proxies controlled by a mainframe that could be easily hacked by Solaris United. They are in fact their own individuals of sort. The AI that pilot these massive gun platforms are unique and appear to have actually taken on their own personalities, as the Profit Taker and Exploiter both behave differently and have different personalities. And so, let us look at the orbs one at a time.
To keep your feet upon the ground, I place burdens upon your shoulders.
So, the Exploiter Orb. Unlike the sentient shielded Profit Taker, the Exploiter Orb instead relies on manipulating ice, storms, and the element. However, the immense amount of energy that it takes the orb to manipulate these powers of the ice and storms leads to her greatest weakness. She is prone to overheating. She is essentially a walking furnace. Her overheating is only kept at bay by several vents, her ability to use ice, as well as an army of Arachnoid children that spray her with coolant constantly. The Exploiter Orb's AI seems to have taken on the persona of a taskmaster, or in the case of the other spiders, a mother or matronly figure. Her quotes reflect this self-image of that of a teacher or a matron, as she is constantly chastising the denizens of the orb about the value of knowing your place and the value of hard work, and that those she berates and disciplines should be grateful for the burdens that she places upon their shoulders, as we can get from her sermonizing quotes, which I will now let you listen to.
Obedience is efficient. Efficiency brings profit. An obedient child profits all. The unruly require instruction, not sympathy. To keep your feet upon the ground, I place burdens upon your shoulders.
So the Exploiter Orb continues to sermonize the people of the Vallis, the Solaris, making sure they are working and that they continue to be exploited, hence her name. She is the one that makes sure those that live in Fortuna are continue to be exploited by Nef'anyo, whether that be through force or through her sermons, which make people think that they should be grateful for where they are. As you will learn, both orbs' names make sense when you look at their behaviour and their personalities and what they do within the Orb Vallis. In my opinion, this AI also mirrors the preacher personality of Nef'anyo, sharing the same passion for sermonizing and glorifying exploitation, all in the name of profit, making it almost a holy thing when in fact it is people just being exploited for the benefit of others. She is also the most matronly and motherly when it comes to the children Arachnoids. She sees herself very much as a mother to her brood of coolant Arachnoids, getting upset when the player kills these and calling out to them as their children over and over again. She often reminds us that the bond she has with the coolant Arachnoids is as strong as any other mother and child relationship, and this again reinforces the matronly persona that the Exploiter Orb has developed. The Exploiter Orb has a dark past with the Solaris United. As an ally of the SU, it is impossible not to have heard of the Deck 12 incident, the destruction of the old Solaris deck where most of the old SU were killed. This included Legs' people and Zood's 7 sisters. It was this catastrophic loss that led Zood to lose her mind, and it led to Yuriko washing her hands of the SU over the guilt of the people she inadvertently led to their deaths. It was the Exploiter Orb that perpetrated this massacre and the destruction of Deck 12. And indeed, Yuriko reveals the reason that it did so at the beginning of the Exploiter Orb height. The SU once tried to take the Exploiter Orb down. This obviously failed, and in response the Exploiter Orb destroyed the entire Deck 12 to try and take out those who had tried to take her out in a very petty act of revenge. This shows a vengeful and sadistic side to the Exploiter AI. It took revenge for a slight against her, and knowing her personality, it was no doubt seen as an act of discipline, the act of giving the rod. Ironically, giving the rod in the traditional sense is just punishing someone. However, the giving the rod in this sense is actually just murdering those who defy you. The fact that this AI's version of giving the rod or disciplining people is massacring a whole collective of people shows how twisted this AI has become and how sadistic and cruel it really is. History almost repeats itself in fact when we make our attempt on the Exploiter Orb, as after phase 1 of the fight the orb flees and declares the following to its children.
Come, children. It is a fine day to visit the city. Burn them all!
So if we had not successfully taken care of the Exploiter at this point, then she was planning to go to Fortuna and burning it down as she had done previously with Deck 12. Again, she seems to do this on the back of her own AI personality rather than the instructions of Nef'anyo or the Corpus, as it is just in response to the attack that she has just suffered in the remains of Deck 12. It shows that this AI is prideful and even has her own emotional responses, given she seems to want to burn Fortuna down on a whim based on the fact we have damaged her and killed some of her children, quote unquote. Thankfully, the Tenno are finally the ones that put an end to this sadistic and twisted mother, when we enact Zud's plan to use Thermia to take advantage of its greatest weakness, the fact that it is a walking furnace. We blow out its vents and eventually it overheats, exploding utterly and leaving no trace of the Exploiter Orb. Now we look at the Profit Taker. Compared to the Exploiter Orb, the Profit Taker is very different in personality and in the way that it is built. Firstly, instead of relying on children and the elements to protect itself, they are far more technology based. The Codex describes the Profit Taker in the following way. Monster of the Vallis and protector of Enrichment Labs, this massive orb appears to be invulnerable. Profit Taker is a monster and extremely powerful due to the incredible defences they are in possession of, and they represent the absolute peak of Corpus technology. Firstly, the orb is given an extra defense through an impenetrable overshield that is provided by an overhead satellite. Secondly, they are protected by sentient adaptive shielding, i.e. shielding that harnesses Sentient's ability to adapt to create a shield that adapts to any damage type that tries to break through its shield. The only reason we're actually able to damage these shields when it comes to the Profit Taker fight is due to the fact that Biz and Little Duck are able to disrupt the harmonics of the shielding, which slows it down to a degree, so that certain types of damage can get through at different points. Even then, even under this shielding, like the Exploiter Orb, it shares the fact that it has a carapace made out of ship armour. Whereas the Exploiter Orb patrols the Temple of Profit and sermonizes the workers to make sure Nef Annual's work quotas are met, the Profit Taker is in fact just concerned with one thing, and that is the protection of the Enrichment Lab, the heart of Nef Annual's sentient research, and therefore by extension it is guarding all research and all profits that exist within the Enrichment Lab. Indeed, the orb seems keenly focused on protecting the contents of the lab, given it says this when the Gravamag is stolen by Little Duck while you distract it. In respect to her name, this now makes sense. She is in charge of guarding the profits of the Vallis, whereas the Exploiter Orb is concerned with controlling the work population. Personality-wise, the Profit Taker is less bombastic than Exploiter, and instead of making sermons, it seems to be almost sadistic, whispering rhymes about how they will kill us. It shows how confident this orb is in its power. It sits lazily upon the labs it is guarding, and doesn't even bother its time shooting at us or moving until the alert in the area is at level 4. And even then it just takes pot shots and still doesn't move. Its lines and threats refer to us as dollies, patronising how we are nothing compared to it, and we are just so small compared to its power, and it is superbly confident in its victory. Overall, it is confident to the extreme, and it seems to take a sadistic pleasure in playing with its prey, which is us, demeaning us before they ultimately annihilate us if the rest of the Corpus cannot manage it. The Profit Taker is really the alpha of the Vallis, a cold killer who takes pleasure in killing dollies who disturb their supreme position atop the Enrichment Labs. However, due to Little Duck's help and Biz's planning, we are able to counteract its defences, even seeing through its confidence, and we are able to blast it to smithereens before it is able to realign itself with the satellite and take advantage of its overshield, putting an end to its sadistic practices and its dominance over the Orb Vallis. It is clear that the mothers of the Orb Vallis pose a real threat to the people of Solaris, and possibly even those beyond, should the Corpus reproduce such formidable technology outside of the Orb. This could definitely be one of the fears of the Quills, which is why they're involved. The fact that these orbs are one of the most successful adaptations of sentient technology should make the enemies of the Corpus, or the enemies of Nef Annual specifically, afraid. The reason why the orbs interest me, however, is due to their AI technology, and that it has led to the development of very interesting and individual personalities. They are exceptionally flawed, twisted, and even fairly sadistic, more so than any of the human characters that we meet in the game. So thanks guys, that's my take on the Mother Orbs, one of my favourite parts of the entire game, just because I love their design. I love the fact they have these really individual personalities, they really interest me, and I just think it adds a lot of ambience to the Orb Vallis when you're out mining or you're out farming and you hear the Mother Orb sermonizing in the background. I just think it's great, and I think it's a great bit of development from DE, and I hope that they develop the orbs a bit further and they bring out that third orb, maybe bring them outside of Fortune. I know that's wishful thinking, but ultimately I think they're great creations and they deserve to be a little bit of a look at, because I just love their AI designs, and the fact they're so twisted and evil, but they're not human, they're just AIs that have become very twisted. If you like this video, consider giving the channel a subscribe, as I cover Warframe at least once a week, usually covering lore, but I do other things as well. Let me know your thoughts on the Mother Orbs below, if you think that you know something about the toys that I missed, or other aspects of the Mother Orbs that you think I've missed, or if you think you have any kind of ideas about the third orb that we don't know much about. But I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this video, and I hope you have a pleasant evening, and I will see you in Fortuna. Take care.